The people of California have a right to decide on whether they want massive cuts or whether they want serious cuts and some tax extensions. And so far, the Republicans are denying the people the right to vote.
That's California Governor Jerry Brown blaming Republicans for a budget deadlock. He wants to hold a special election on a $9.3 billion tax referendum, but he needs 4 Republicans to sign off on it. Brown's trying to close the Golden State's $26 billion deficit. For more on progress being made, we're joined by his state treasurer, Bill Lockyer. Bill, welcome to InBusiness. So glad to talk to you face to face.
Thank you.
We look at California so often as a barometer of where we're headed, and we know the budget battles that so many states are having. What progress can we expect here in California? Are the Republican votes going to be there?
I'm skeptical. You know, we keep trying, and we've been trying for months now to convince enough that they just should let the people decide. When you make a major decision like a cut of 25 to 30% of the general fund budget, which would hammer schools and health care and other things, or alternatively continue some substantial taxes that were levied during the Schwarzenegger years, but they would be extended. When you decide that, once in a while you want to check in with the people and say, okay, is this all right? Which direction should we take? And that's what the governor's asking, and he's not...
So put this issue on the ballot.
Put it on the ballot, let people decide.
Weigh in on that.
Yep.
When could we expect a vote on the tax plan?
Well, the original plan was to try to do it before the next fiscal year began so that we'd know what the budget is, and that's July 1st. So the idea was early June or something of that sort.
What is it now? Is it not early June?
Well, it keeps slipping. So it depends on how soon there might be an agreement. And if there's not an agreement, then of course there are some very substantial cuts that have to be made. And maybe some of the citizens groups that care about these matters are talking about circulating petitions, getting it on the ballot by initiative, and having an election in the fall.
Can you, if it's in the fall, I mean, can you balance a budget with austerity alone here? Can you get that done?
Well, technically you can, but the decisions are awful. I mean, just if you were to do across-the-board cuts for K-12 schools, it's the equivalent of cutting about 6 to 8 weeks out of the school year. Now, I don't know anyone rational that wants to do that, but now maybe there's another way to do it, balloon class sizes or something else, but it's not a pretty picture, and I don't think voters are going to want to do that if they understand the choices.
I want to ask you as well about some of the debates being had about municipal finances right now. California is the biggest issuer of debt in the muni market, and I believe you, as a treasurer, have sold more bonds than any other treasurer in California history to try to finance infrastructure. You put a pause on that because you're trying to reduce the amount of debt.
Right.
When can you expect to bring debt to market again in California?
Current plan, of course, it depends on having a budget adopted, because you can't go to the market if you don't have a budget.
Right.
Can't pay the debt service in that year. And so assuming the budget's adopted on time, we'd like to get back to the market for short-term cash flow borrowing in the summer, and then general obligation to build schools and transit systems and other things in the fall, September or October.
But that deadline would move along with the issue of it being on the ballot.
Now, all of our infrastructure spending needs are basically paid for through this calendar year. So we're okay if we get out in the fall in terms of not impacting jobs and businesses that are relying on those revenues in order to keep the jobs going.
When you look nationwide, because you've got to be looking at your peers, state to state, and the battles that they're having, there's been a lot of worry about being able to not necessarily have defaults or some sort of real restructuring problems in the municipal markets. I mean, what's your view on where we stand there? Do you expect to see massive restructurings?
Restructuring? Well, if you mean some government responsibilities that they no longer perform, or you know, what kind of restructuring?
You get someone, obviously the term's a relative one in terms of how you define it, but you get people, as you well know, like Meredith Whitney, who have put a number on what they see as defaults, real issues in terms of being able to pay bills.
Yeah, I'd like her analysis as an example to be peer reviewed. So far, it's all secret information that maybe you pay $100,000 to get. The only little pieces of it I've seen and others claim, it makes no sense.
So you sound skeptical of that
analysis? Well, I
analysis.
certainly know at the state level, and I know California best, we're never going to default on our bond obligations, our debt payments. It's a small part of the state budget.
Right.
It has a very high priority for spending. There's always enough money to cover those things. Now, whether there'll be some strange little local water district or something somewhere that is...
You wouldn't rule that out.
That could
You would
happen.
Expect that.
Yes, that could happen.
Bill, thank you so much for your time.